God bless, guys. God bless, God bless, God bless. Welcome back to another live stream here on the Apologetic Arena Live. We are live again, helping you as a Christian defend your faith against all different sorts of attacks against the Christian faith. Today's going to be no different. I'm going to be helping you know what to say and how to engage with. Today, for example, we're going to be dealing again. I've actually started calling it Women Wednesday, right? We're on a series. We've been looking at a silly, dumb claim from a Muslim who published a video it's actually got over 1 million views, and he was talking about how Islam honors women more than Christianity. So we've been having conversations mostly on a Wednesday. If you're new here, or if you've been here before, welcome again to the live stream channel. My name is Israel. You can also call me King Context. Either way, I pray you are blessed. Right now, the current schedule is Mondays and Wednesdays, same time, same place. We're doing live streams helping you defend your faith against different attacks against the Christian faith. So if you are interested in that, make sure you like this live stream today. It will help more Christians see this. And if you want to attend and join next time and get those notifications, make sure you obviously subscribe to the channel as well. This is my live stream channel for Christian apologetics. I've got a standalone channel which is just about videos. It's called the Apologetic Arena. My live stream channel is obviously called Apologetic Arena Live, where I do stuff like this on a regular basis, going live and dealing with arguments in videos, but also welcoming up anybody in regards to the topic for the live stream to call into the show and to have conversations on the same topic. So the link is posted in the comment section. If you want to call in and have a conversation, you can do that. And I'm welcome to anyone to actually call in. So we've already got a caller. I'll bring up the first caller in a moment. Let me just continue to go through just the house cleaning, just so everybody knows what's good. Okay, cool. So definitely like, send in hearts, subscribe if you want to see more of these live streams. Will be very beneficial. Again, today we're going to be talking about a claim that I've played the video before. You know what? I'm not even going to play it again, right? But this was a video which there was a guy who's posting a video online. It's got over 1 million views, and he's talking about how Islam honors women more than Christianity. So based on that video, I said, you know what? Let's start having conversations. Let's engage with Muslims and see how true that claim actually is. And what we've seen time and time again is that claim is clearly false. And last time we was looking at some videos from Dr. Yasser Qadi, where he was basically acknowledging clearly that we were talking about, anyway, let me not even, I won't even spill the beans yet, right? But for those of you who were there last time, you saw that live stream, you can go back in the archive and watch it on the YouTube channel. It's there for you to enjoy at your leisure. All right, cool. Today, I've got another video which I wanted us to engage with, and maybe I'll bring that up. We'll watch some of that a little bit later. We'll see. Or maybe we won't, because it looks like that caller disappeared. All right, cool. It happened. So again, if you want to have a conversation based on today's topic, you can click the link, you can join, you can call in, and we can have a conversation about this particular topic. I was just talking about a video, right? There was a video a few weeks back. I was looking at a couple of videos, and I actually wanted to play them. But now, so last time I played the videos from Dr. Yasser Qadi. Today, if there's time, we'll potentially look at that as well. But let's see what's going to happen first and foremost. All right. Hello. That's strange. I'm not hearing anything. Hello? Okay, hold on a second. Hello? You have to, yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
yeah, you have to unmute yourself. Hello?
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing? Are you a Muslim? Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, I know. If there's no likes, make sure you're tapping the screen, liking the live stream. Hello? Thank you, Brendan, for liking the live. Can you hear me, Blue Faye? Blue Faye? All right, it seems, I don't know what's wrong with the connection. Try and call back in, and let you back up. Okay. Not sure what's going on. But guys, like the live stream, send hearts in. Let's try this again. All right. Hello? You have to unmute yourself if you want to speak, number one. Hello, hello, hello. Unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself. All right. I don't know. Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens. If you can sort your audio out, then you can call back in. But I don't know what's going on. And it's funny. I'm always interested to see how long it lasts. Already, you can already see the comments like this, which we have to deal with every single time. Someone saying you shouldn't compare religions. I've literally started the live stream talking about, and again, another comment, why are you comparing religions, right? It's so crazy that I literally started the live stream talking about how this is because of a Muslim man who published a video talking about how Islam honors women more than Christianity. And he was lying, telling porcupines, and it would be better for you to go and speak to that sort of Muslim on his video and say, well, don't compare religions if you're going to say it to me as a Christian. And it seems like the person that was calling in says they were a former Muslim. Jesus saved her. All glory to God. We praise the Lord for that. And yeah, if you think that we shouldn't compare religions, then go and tell the Muslim man who was comparing religions before, and obviously lying about it as well. Isn't one video, like, what's wrong with me responding to one video? Isn't one video enough? There's many things that people do in life because of one reason. I didn't say it's the only reason, but it was a reason. So let's see. Do your research. It's the culture that is bad for women. Well, I don't agree, because let's think about this question for a little bit, right? And again, if you're a Muslim, feel free to call in. You can call in and we can have a conversation about why Islam clearly is bad for women and Christianity is better. But the culture was whatever the culture was, right? Before Islam came on the scene, before Muhammad came around, right? And then Muhammad comes along, according to the Islamic traditions. He starts preaching and giving out the Quran that Allah is given to him, basically. Then the Muslims in Arabia and wherever else they were able to expand to are living based on the way of life of Islam. That's their code of ethics. That's their guidebook. So when it comes to us looking at individuals, we can't always just say it's the culture, because if they're based on the culture, then okay, cool. That's how when you think about atheism, that's how we judge atheists, because they say they don't have a religion, they don't believe in a God. So their culture, what their code of ethics, how they live by, is what that's what we judge them by. If you go to a country, or you are looking at a group of people who are Christians, and you're like, well, okay, cool, they say they're Christians. Okay, Christians believe in the Bible. So we look at, okay, are they following the Bible? That's how we're going to judge. Are they actually following their own culture, or are they following the Bible? It's the same with Islam. We look at the individuals and we say, okay, cool, these are Muslim countries, or these are a group of Muslims, these are Islamic people. Okay, what governs Islam? Where do Muslims get their code of ethics, their living, their philosophy of life? They get it from the Quran. And if they're not Quran only Muslims, then they get it from the Quran. They also get it from the Hadith and like the tafsirs, the commentaries. So we can't just say it's culture if the book and the writings are ultimately saying this. So we can't run away from it and say, no, it's just a culture. That's a cop-out. And it's not even a true cop-out either. Okay. Thank you. Yo, I agree. I agree too. Thank you for tuning in, all of you. Again, make sure you're hitting the like button, you're hitting the hearts, etc. It goes a long way. More people can see this. We can wake more people up. Let's see. And how is Islam bad for women? Is it because they make them cover up? You're an atheist. That's not why I'm I'm saying that it's bad for women today. As many times as I've done this live stream, that I even brought that up as a reason why in any of the live stream. So that's not why. The moment we start speaking to some Muslims, it will become very evident. We'll look at different reasons, etc. So Islam is a cancer. It will destroy everything. It's just like everything the devil does. The devil is here to steal, kill, and destroy. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. Thank you for the gift, Blue Faye. I appreciate for the rose. Thank you. God bless you. Shalom, Adam. Appreciate you for tuning in. All right. Adam,
Hey,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Have we spoken before?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think I've joined your live before.
Your voice sounds familiar. All right.
Hmm.
Islam is bad for women. Christianity is better. You want to know why?
Yeah, give me one example, and then I'll give you one example.
Okay, no, I'm going to give you an example, and then you explain it, right? All right. So,
But you're making a dual argument.
pardon?
You're making a dual argument about why Islam is bad and Christianity is better. So you have to also answer for why Christianity is better. It can't just be a one-way street.
Yeah, the reason why I'm giving you for Islam being bad, Christianity doesn't do the thing I'm telling you. So that is the argument.
Okay.
You understand that?
Okay.
Okay. So one reason. Let's talk about this today. We definitely have spoken before, man. Your voice sounds very familiar. All right. Anyway,
Maybe it might have been a while ago.
No, I don't think so. But okay, cool. So one of the reasons why Islam is bad for women and Christianity is better, because according to Islam, in your sources, most of the women in hell are women. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, anyway, it says most of the women in hell are women, is because they have deficient minds. They're half-brained. What do you think about that? Do you agree? Or you don't, or you disagree?
Yeah, there's a teaching that says, a saying where the prophet said that he saw that the most of the people in hell were women. I don't see any problem with that.
Okay. You don't see any problem with
That's just an observance.
most of the people in hell being women.
Yeah, why is that a problem?
You don't see how that could be bad for women, how that is bad for women.
No, it's just an observation.
It's an observation in your religion that most people that go to hell are women.
Most of the people in hell are women, yeah. So let's say it could be like 60-40. It doesn't have to be like 90-10.
It
just means there were more. It just means there were more women in hell than there were men.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying it's 90-10. It could be. Most just means it has to be the majority. So, best case scenario, 51% of the people in hell are women.
Okay.
But it could be 90%, 95%. But that's only half of the problem. The other problem, or what is probably the more significant problem, is that it says it's because part of the reason that most of the people in hell are women is because they have deficient minds.
Yeah, so, do you disagree with that?
Of course, I disagree with that.
Do you think
you don't think that's wrong?
No, I do think women are more deficient than men when it comes to thinking.
Okay, why are women more deficient than men in thinking? Why is it like that?
There's been many studies done about this.
No, but tell me why. Forget about the studies. Why before the studies?
It's genetic.
Why are women's genetics like that according to you?
That's just how God created humans, where men are more, generally speaking, obviously there's exceptions and outliers, but generally men are smarter than women.
So God created women that way to be deficient in mind in comparison to men. Yeah? And then
for generally speaking.
And then because of that, that's the reason, one of the reasons why most of the women are the people in hell. The majority of people in hell are women.
No, you didn't finish the whole teaching. What is the whole
I didn't
thing
say I finished
say?
the whole teaching. Every time I brought it up, I said part of the reason why most of the people in hell are women is because they're deficient in mind.
Yeah, they're using it wrongly, but it's not saying that the primary reason they're in hell is because of their deficient mind. It goes on to say something else, which
what does it go on to say?
out.
What does it go on to say?
You have it in front of you. Go ahead and read it.
What does it go on to say? You are the one saying that I'm missing stuff. So tell me what it says that I missed out, which is so relevant to what we're talking about.
I don't have it in front of me, but there's stuff you left out. I know you didn't finish it.
Tell me what I left out. You know enough apparently to say I left something out, which is apparently going to drastically change what we're talking about, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the teaching goes on to say that they don't do certain stuff, like they're ungrateful to their husbands and etc. other stuff.
Okay, so they're ungrateful to their husbands. Again, is that good for women? Like, think about this. Think about this. Muhammad says in hadith, he saw into hell. He saw hell, and the majority of people in hell were women. And then he says, the reason why is because women have a deficient mind. They're deficient in mind, and they're deficient in their religion. You said, imagine someone saying no, he did not, when the guy I'm literally calling has already acknowledged that yes, this is in the sources. Like, come on, keep up, man. Anyway, so you said this is genetic. God created them this way. So God created them in a way which tends to them being the majority of people that go into hell. And you apparently don't see the problem with that.
No, I mean, that's not even what I said.
What didn't you say?
That's kind of like your whole argument is based off like atheism. It's not even based off Christianity, because your argument completely neglects like predestination and everything else. Your argument could be used by an atheist by saying, why do you believe in a God if God created you knowing what you were going to do, and then he's going to put you in hell for what you did? So your argument is based off atheism, which is generally what most Christian arguments are based off, because your religion has nothing to stand on.
No, it's not.
Anyway,
do you think that every
your religion
do you think that
listen to
me
woman, bro.
Listen to me. No, it doesn't. Do you think that every person who's religious believes in predestination the way you believe it?
Yeah, predestination literally has only one definition.
Do you believe that every person who's religious believes in predestination the way you do, the way you've just tried to explain it?
Yeah, generally from the Abrahamic religions, yes.
No, that's not true, bro.
Of course it's not, because you guys don't even follow your religion. So
okay, we don't follow our religion, definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, your arguments are based off from like secularism and liberalism.
No, it isn't.
If you read the Bible, I mean, what does Paul say? That the man is the leader of the household, and there's no such thing as marital grape. There's no such thing
what are you talking about? What, like, you clearly don't know the Bible, but you're just talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense. Why are you running from what we're speaking about?
I'm not running. I'm just saying that you're literally arguing from a place of liberalism and not arguing from a place of Christianity. Are women allowed to speak in churches?
Yes, they are allowed to speak in churches.
Okay, so you're not a Christian.
Again, you don't know the Bible. Again, you don't know the Bible. Again, you don't know the Bible.
You're a liberal.
You don't know the Bible.
Let me guess, you think slavery was immoral?
Dumb Muslim. This is what you have to do. A guy, you heard him yourself. He comes on. I know I've spoken to this guy before. He comes on. I'm literally saying to him, you know, let's just forget about someone like that. I need to block this. I've spoken to that guy before, and I'm pretty sure he was doing the same dumb stuff before. Don't call again. He has the cheek. He must not know who I am if he's calling me a liberal. He must not know. Islam is bad for women. All right. Let's see if the next caller can do any better. You clearing your throat? You ready, yeah? Mullah. How you doing?
Yeah, am I on?
How you doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
Are you a Muslim?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, how much of the last conversation did you hear?
Portions of it, because I kind of like got here when the live was on already.
Okay, cool. All right. So I was speaking with the last caller about how in Islam, the majority of people in hell are women. And one of the reasons why the majority of people in hell are women is because they have deficient minds, according to Muhammad. Obviously, that's not what you see in Christianity, and that is why Islam is bad. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, what does majority mean?
Well, majority means most of. So at a bare minimum, if you have 100 people, 51 would be the smallest majority. It could be 99 to 1, but it can't be anything less than 51 to 49. That's what the majority means.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
So that's very close to men. It could be 59%. I mean, 51 versus 49.
At best, it could be 51 to 49.
At best, yeah.
At best.
And God knows best, you know?
Okay. What do you think about the fact that the majority of people in hell are going to be women? Do you think that's good for women or bad for women?
I think it's bad for women, and there's probably a message in that, and they're probably telling them to straighten up their act.
The message was women are deficient in their mind. They're deficient in their mind, and they're disrespectful to their husbands. They're ungrateful to their husbands.
That could be one of the reasons, yeah. We can't deny that.
We can't deny what?
The fact that they need to be nicer to their husbands.
Okay. Are husbands disrespectful to their wives?
Yeah, they could be too, yes.
Okay. So why are the majority of people in hell women? And part of the reason is because they have a deficient mind. You know what deficient means?
Deficient means they could be created deficiently, meaning they have a deficiency in their creation, or it could mean that they have a hard time learning and adapting.
Okay, so God created women in Islam, Muslims, to have a deficient mind, and that is part of the reason which is leading them to be the majority of people in hell.
Yeah, it could, you know, like I thought of this very deeply too, you know, because I was like, why would God do such a thing? And why do we believe in such things? And it's like, believe me, I understand where you're coming from.
What conclusion did you come to? Why would God do that?
I came to a conclusion where I, as a human being, never can become that arrogant to question God.
Okay.
That's my first position, okay? The second position is...
okay, hold on. Before you go to your second position, did God give you the ability to question or reason or engage with what he's teaching and saying to you?
He has given us, for example, the Torah, the Bible, and the Gospel and the Quran as, you know, things to learn from, right?
Okay.
But it has stopped there, and then the world is a test. So it says you have to go through these trials and tribulations, and we have given you guidance through all the Abrahamic religions. Now it's up to you to submit yourself or keep questioning. But if we question, we're not going to get answers. That's the problem, because we're in a situation where we're being tested, and God's not going to come and talk to us personally. So that by itself, to me, is good enough. I'm not gonna bang my head on the wall and say why God is not talking to me.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm a human being. I'm a traveler.
So you said
life is short.
You said we shouldn't ask questions because if we ask questions, we're not going to get answers.
We're not going to probably get answers, and if we do share those answers with someone else, no one's going to believe us, like how they'd never believed the prophets.
But isn't questions how you get answers? You in order to get an answer, you ask the question.
Well, I got my answer. Other people have to get their answers too. My answer is, I always remember that God says that if you want to be my servant, you need to submit to me, and you have to understand that you don't have the capacity to know everything. We have created you with limitations. So if God already says that, yes.
Okay, so based on what we're talking about, you think that a Muslimah should just accept that they have a deficient mind, and because of that, that's one of the reasons which is going to lead them to be the majority of people in hell.
That's if they choose to not learn new ways to overcome that deficiency.
Say that again?
I don't know why there's an echo.
Was there echo before?
No, there was not echo before.
Okay. What? Is it gone now?
Hello? Yeah,
gone?
it's better. Thank you. Yeah.
They're saying they can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why. But
okay. Do you hear me? Do I need to speak louder?
No, I can hear you. It's they're saying they can't hear you for some reason, but yeah, okay. I'm not sure. So I know they can hear on YouTube, but they're not. They say they can't. Okay, cool. So a woman. Let's get back. Let's get back to the topic properly, though. So a woman in Islam has to live with the fact that because the God of Islam says women are deficient in their mind and they're ungrateful to their husbands, this is why they are the majority of people in hell.
Yeah. So when it comes to things like that, I think outside the box a little bit. Okay, and I try to like see what are the reasons why that verse is being said at that moment, right? If it's only because of their husbands and their relationship and how they're not able to cooperate with each other and have a lovely relationship, then yes, they could suffer from it because the husband suffers from it too. So when it says that they're going to be in heaven or hell starts here on earth too, how we're living. We could bring hell upon ourselves even in this physical life.
Okay, so, but are you going to compare the worst things that can happen to us in life with how hell is described in the Quran?
Well, in the Quran, it's all symbolic and poetic language. So when they say fiery, like fires and shackles, and all of this is taken from Bible and from other religions. Like Abrahamic religions are known to describe such things in such languages. So it's like, I don't really see a problem because, I really see past that really quickly. I don't hold any of the religions accountable for those types of poetic language,
Okay, so
and then
what do you think is going to happen in the afterlife for those that go to hell as a Muslim? What's your view on it?
Well, based on what what I've learned, and I'm not in no way a scholar of any of these religions, but based on what I know is that, you know, it's kind of a punishment because they say that we've given you guidance, but you don't follow it correctly, and that life was a test, and now you come here on the other side, you might get a bad grade.
Okay.
If you, in order for you to graduate this physical life and go to heaven, you have to get good grades, meaning you have to live according to your religions. And all the Abrahamic religions are the same. So if they all believe that there's guidance brought to them, and if they don't follow it correctly, well, they're going to probably face consequences based on those religious rules.
But what makes you think they're the same? What makes you think they're the same when we're literally talking about something which is significant, which is drastically different? Christianity doesn't teach that the majority of people in hell are women, or that women have deficient minds, or that a woman necessarily disrespects or is ungrateful to her husband any more so than a husband may be disrespectful or ungrateful to his wife. Don't you see like a major difference here?
There is a difference, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So in my point of view, I've like put them into categories. So for example, Prophet Abraham, peace and blessings be upon him, when he came with his 10 commandments, then after that it expanded with Moses, right?
Okay.
With Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he came with his set of rules. And then Prophet Jesus came with his set of rules. And then Paul and all of them kind of like, you know, did what they had to do, but which is fine. And then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came. So it's like a 1.0 version, 2.0 version, 3.0, and then the 4.0, right? And then in the 4.0 is going to fill in the gaps which was missed by other predecessor religions. And it talks about those things. And, you know, we can't be upset at the messenger for bringing the truth. So that's how I settle with it. I'm like, Prophet Muhammad, he really didn't want to have all this beef, but he was placed in that position as a prophet or as a messenger and given this heavy burden of, you know, risking his life, just like all the other messengers did, to just bring this message, and then now everybody's upset with them. It's like funny to me, actually. The world is not seeing it clearly.
Do you think that Muslim women who understand this stuff will take the same kind of view you take? Or do you feel just because you're a man, you don't necessarily quite understand the severity of what we're talking about? Like, are you married, or do you have daughters or sisters?
I'm not married yet. You know, I haven't found my better half yet, but I will, hopefully, inshallah. I pray every day.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, if as a man, we were supposed to have the capacity to feel how women feel. You know what I mean? Because we were born from our dear mothers. Without our mothers, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
So if I myself, I'm not talking about all other men, maybe other men are not capable of doing this, but me, I am capable of thinking as if I was a woman. I put myself in their shoe, right?
How do you think your mom would feel about this?
My mom was okay with it because she knew that she goes through the menstrual cycle. She has like 2 weeks out of the month when she was like abnormal. And this was done by design, which we want to deny.
But it's we don't want to deny the natural course that women have. But if you think about this, a woman, according to Islam, isn't just deficient in mind for 7 days in a month or 2 weeks in a month. Based on Islam, a woman is just deficient in their mind. That's it. So whether it's that time of the month or not, according to Islam, a woman has just been created by your God to be deficient?
Well, if you see, I don't have enough scientific ability to dissect that into this depth which you're talking about. But if I was able to, and if I gave it enough time, I would probably come to terms with God.
Okay.
Yeah.
You would never question and think to yourself, is this right? Is this normal? Does this make sense? Am I following the right God, or anything along those lines?
I have thought about many things like that when it comes to religions in general, like from everywhere, from Christianity to Judaism to Islam. Some things don't make sense to me.
Okay.
But I do have enough decency to respect them all and coexist and live with them. And I'm not going to take matters into my own hand. I'm not a messenger. I'm not a prophet. You know what I mean? And certainly, I don't have enough information. Like, I could probably find many citations, and now we have all these tools, AI, and we have all the books, and just go cherry pick on things and start creating problems against religions. And I refrain from that because, life is too short. Like, I rather enjoy my life with my Christian brothers, my Jewish brothers, or anybody that even they don't believe in God. Like, this life is a test. It's so short. Like, we live, 70 years? And fighting over micro details is not good.
So again, you think this is a micro detail, that the majority of women are the people that fill up hell? No, we said that's the minimum. We said that's the minimum. If I was gonna be the most charitable to you, that's what I would say. But majority.
How many do you want to think that is there? Like, you want to fill the maximum, like 95% women, or are you okay with 51%?
I'm not. I'm like, obviously a majority just means most. So it, like I said when you asked me initially, I could, at best, if I'm thinking about, okay, what does this mean, as I'm trying to break this down and understand it, I would know that my limits are, okay, cool, according to a majority, would be 51% up to 99%, right? So when you think about it from that perspective, I don't know what the majority is in the Islamic sources. I don't know. He doesn't say a number, at least to my understanding. He just says the majority of the dwellers of hellfire.
Yeah, I think that's why they left it
to our imagination.
To our imagination, because it could fluctuate if women understand their position, that the Creator created them that way, and then they don't question it, then they can probably learn, how.
Say that again. It's a matter of understanding that he made them in a way that's leading them. Hold on, sorry. Okay, so it's just a matter of it's a matter of them just accepting that he made them in a way which is leading them and causing them to be the majority of people that fill up hell.
That he's merciful, right? So if he understand that women tried their best understanding this and not questioning things too much to the point where they get stressed and they're upset with God, and then they have extra health issues, they should just accept with it, come to terms with it, and maneuver around those challenges and deficiencies that they may have, and to be a better person in this world, which they are. Mothers go through a lot. You and I know, like, they suffer a lot from giving birth to until, like, they pass away. So I think they have a bigger test for them, and that's what it is. And I can't question why God did that. I really don't. But because of that, as a Muslim, I must be nicer to women, because I understand that they have a deficiency, and God said it. It's to bring attention to us men who realize that, to be nicer to them, to be more understanding to them, to take care of them and be responsible for them. We can't think of them as equal. We have to keep them at home. We pay for them. We go work. They just have to be at home and take care of our children if we decide to have children with them. So those are the conveniences that we must provide as men to compensate for what God has told us, that there is a deficiency in them and that we should take care of them.
And then, because of all of that, they're going to turn around and be the majority of people that feel hell.
Not if they, are peaceful and understanding of that. They probably are not going to do that.
But
they're not going to probably go to hell. Who knows? Like, at that point, maybe at that point when Prophet Muhammad was even talking about this, that when he said, "Oh, when I went to hell and I saw so many women there," it's probably because of the fact that maybe at that time women were lost. They didn't have a lot of guidance, or like, God didn't really bring these scriptures to them. Maybe he was talking about that era of hell. Hell is an
okay, but you said that God created them this way. So we can't really say it was only for that time, because if God created the women that way, Muslim women today are still going to be deficient in mind. And if they're still deficient in mind today, because that's how they've been created, they're still going to be the people who are filling up hell to the maximum, the majority. They're going to be the majority of people in hell, because they still have deficient minds in Islam, and that's still going to lead them down the pathway of being disrespectful or being ungrateful, or whatever the Islamic sources say, and then therefore they're going to be the majority of people in hell. So it's not just about that period in time, is it?
That is a very good point. And when it comes to that level of, like, trying to dissect it, then I come to an understanding that when God speaks about women, he speaks about them in general, meaning the non-Muslim, all of the above, like, so if you take all the non-Muslims also into account, maybe that is the reason why the hell might have 51% population of women, because they really haven't submitted to the guidance which all the monotheistic Abrahamic religions are demanding from them or teaching them. So if that's the way the population numbers work, is the whole world, not just the Muslim world, that has 60% of them in hell. You know what I mean? If you really look at it from a human perspective, and that's what these messages are not just for certain people, it's for the whole world. God brought these religions for the whole world, and not the whole world. Right now, if we really count how many people believe in God in the world, is exactly those numbers. It fits within those numbers. So let's say Christianity is 2.2 billion people. Islam is 1.7 billion people. And then we have how many millions of our Jewish brothers and sisters. If they're all combined together, we're still the minority, right? And as population goes. So the majority falls on the other side. And if the hell is filled with 51% or more women, then that falls into that side. Like these numbers are all variables. You know what I mean?
I get what you're trying to say, but the problem with that is it's not just about. You could argue, firstly, that he's actually just speaking about Muslim women because he talks about being deficient in religion. But even if I agree with what you're saying, and it's like, okay, this is a message for all of mankind, it's still focusing on women. That's the problem. It's women that have been created in Islam to have a deficient mind. And
well, in my opinion, like there's no problem if we focus on women and their deficiency. I mean, even women, if you really take a census, like if they're not arrogant, honestly, like really, like I have sisters.
You think they're going to agree with you and say, yeah, we have deficient minds in comparison to men. Our minds are not as good as men.
Wallah, sometimes my sister herself told me this, okay? I don't know about other people, what type of, if anybody's honest with each other these days, you can't live in denial. My own sister sometimes argues about stuff that really is like really, really nonsense.
Okay.
And she's been doing that. And then my brother is not like that. And I see it within my own family. And then so my sister came to terms one day and she's like, you know what?
She accepted what Islam says. She's got a deficient mind.
She didn't accept what Islam says. She accepted what God says, So she doesn't even know Islam that well. If I ask her, yeah, she's born a Muslim, yeah.
Okay.
If I ask her what these verses mean, she doesn't even know. Because she grew up here, she went to university, she goes to school. She's so busy and caught up with the modern slavery that she doesn't even have time to go open the verses. But nowadays, she tells me, she's like, hey, you're right, I'm sorry. Like, I have,
a deficient mind.
I have hormonal deficiencies. Now she's coming through from the other side. She's like, scientifically it is proven. So now she's coming to terms. And I'm like, okay, I love you. I'm sorry that you're going through this, and I understand, and I'm here for you more than what I would be for my brother. Like, so that's our duty as brothers, as men, to take care of our women. You know what I mean?
So you think, right?
Yeah.
When someone comes to you, like your sister, for example, and she's saying to you, look, basically, and just to keep it simple, she's got a deficient mind. Your perspective at that point is to say, like, yeah, I understand you. It's okay. It's going to be all right. Instead of saying to her, no, your mind isn't deficient. You can think just as well as anybody else. You don't see the difference in those two scenarios.
I do. I have told her that. Believe me, I've sugarcoated it, and I've tried to go outside the bounds of like what God has said. And I told her, and I said, look, I love you. You shouldn't think that way. You should think. And she's very smart. Believe me, when it comes to like education and
how can she be very smart if Islam says women have deficient minds?
Well, that's a proof. Like, I'll tell you, like, I'm telling you the truth. She's very smart. She has her college degree. She works hard. She's very intelligent, very clean, very like organized. She has all the qualities. She cooks well. She means well. I mean, all the good qualities, like, right? And then when it comes to like her emotions, sometimes she does tell me that she's like, there are days in the month where she feels like, like she just has that imbalance in her. And that's probably what God is talking about.
Remember I told you, remember I told you,
yes.
It's not just about the time of the month. It's all the time. There's no caveat. There's no caveat in Islam. It's just a woman has a deficient mind. And this is why she's going to be the majority of the people in hell.
Well, if that's how God has created it, and if I don't have a solution for it, like I've tried, you try, I know all of us, we try to think outside of that, limitation that God has created. But if hopefully we can make a change, hopefully we can make a difference, and probably that's why that's our job as men.
How are you going to change what your religion teaches?
Well, we can't change what the human interpretations are in the past, right? Because that's already the past. We have scholars who've written their opinions on certain things, and they've made a lot of mistakes. In every sect of like every religion, they've made their mistakes because they spoke from their limited mind or understanding or capacity of that time and era, and whatever you can call it. You can put them in a box, but as us human beings, we have the right to interpret the verses in a more positive approach, instead of like saying, no, God said it that way, Abu Bukhari said it this way, and then it's all locked and
Hold on a
sealed, and you
second.
guys are like, yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. You were saying
I
God's...
stopped because it's echoing again.
All right, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Hello? Yeah. So I just paid attention to those comments. I don't know if they're able to hear us, and I don't want to take all your live time if we're not able to make a difference. You know what I mean? Like you and I can talk. Believe me, I really appreciate you, and you're a very nice person, and I appreciate the time that you've given me to speak on your.
It's cool. It's cool. I was going to say to you anyway. It's a good conversation. I think the conversation we had proves the point. I feel like for a lot of the time you're proving my point. Why Islam is bad for women. So feel free to call in another time when I'm talking about. Yeah, feel free to call in another time if you want. And take care. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, man. You too.
All right. God bless. All right, there you go, guys. From the mouth of a Muslim. Women have a deficient mind. It's just the way God made it. And he's just going to play along with it. He's going to go along with it. Instead of... it's actually funny about that. It's... You could turn around and be like, well, why not think about it? Why not ask yourself, okay, is this true? Does this make sense? Is this something we should believe? And that's one of the things that makes me realize sometimes and think like, is it only women in Islam that have a deficient mind? Or do men actually in Islam have deficient minds too? And that's like a genuine question I have sometimes, because when you hear some of the things they say, it's like, let's piece it together. Right? But yeah, like he was different to most Muslims I've spoken to anyway online. A lot of Muslims that I speak to can't control themselves. We heard the caller earlier on was a prime example. But Islam says and teaches that most of the people in hell are women. And it's because they have a deficient mind. They're disrespectful, ungrateful to their husbands, and they have a deficient mind. So in Islam, God has basically set women up to fail. And this is why, clearly, Islam is bad for women. All right. So that's one line of reasoning you can speak to a Muslim about, right? And that Muslim, like, he was cool. Like, the conversation was good, but at the same time, just bear in mind, I would have to say that's a good Muslim. And what I mean by a good Muslim, a good Muslim is someone who reads the Quran, accepts their sources, and just follows it. So he said he's had these problems, he's thought about it, he's questioned it, but at the end of the day, he just has to take it. So when his sister comes along to him and says, look, yeah, like, I'm all over the place, I'm just not quite there, like, whatever she's saying, he's like, look, yeah, I understand, I know, like, Allah said it already, you got a deficient mind, like, it's gonna be okay. When really, he knows though, he knows these are gonna be the majority of people going to hell. People like his sister, his mom, his wife to be if he gets married at some point in the future, any potential daughters, etc. and stuff like that. This is what's, to me, crazy about the situation. But yeah, let's even look. One of the sources we're basing this off today is this hadith, Sahih Bukhari 304, right? And we can read some of it. This is an interesting hadith. I'll just put it like that, and then I'll jump into the video, which is on a different topic. But notice, so Bukhari 304, it says, once Allah's messenger went out to Musalla to offer the prayer. Right, and then it says, then he passed by the women and said, "O women, give alms, do good deeds," basically. And as do good deeds, and this is why Muhammad says it, do good stuff, because I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of the hellfire were you. Right? He says, basically to these Muslim women, be good, because if you're not good, I've seen that the majority of people in hell are people like you, women. And it's funny because the last caller was saying, at one point he said, look, you shouldn't ask questions because it's not going to produce answers. And one of the things I pushed back was like, well, no, asking questions is how you get to answers. And it's like, it's even proof in this hadith, because it only makes sense to me. Let me know what you guys think in the chat as well. It makes sense to me. If someone says something which is very intriguing, very interesting, very shocking, like it probably was to these women, you are the majority of people that's going to be in hell, they ask a question, which makes a lot of sense. Okay? And we can see the question. What did they asked? These don't seem like deficient women to me. They actually seem like smart women. They ask questions. They asked, why is it so? They're asking the question, wait, hold on, Muhammad. You just said you've seen that the majority of people in the hellfire are women. And they ask a very good question, right? Why? Why is it so? And he says, you curse frequently and you are ungrateful to your husbands. Okay, so according to Islam and according to this hadith, the majority of women in hell are there, they're going to be there because they curse frequently. And it's interesting because men curse frequently too. Okay. They're ungrateful to their husbands. Many husbands are ungrateful to their wives too. And then he says, he has not seen anyone more deficient in mind. Sorry, let me even quote it accurately. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and in religion than you. So, like I just said, they're asking intelligent questions. If someone says people like me are going to be the majority of the people in hell, I'm going to ask a very intelligent question. Very simple, but very intelligent, because I don't want to be in the hellfire. Why are people like me going to be the majority of people in hell? They ask the question and he says, you're disrespectful, you're ungrateful to your husbands, you curse all the time. As if men don't curse all the time and are not ungrateful to their wives. But then it gets better. I've never seen anyone more deficient. So these are the dumbest people. There's no one dumber in Islam than a Muslim. That's what he's saying. That's what I have not seen anyone more deficient. There's no one dumber than a Muslim. That's what this hadith is teaching. In intelligence and religion. So you can't even dress this up and say, oh no, it's only in a certain scenario, only in circumstances. He's crystal clear here. He hasn't seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. And then it says, a cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. And you know why this is so funny to me? Because Muhammad in this hadith is saying that he hasn't seen anyone dumber than a woman in religion, right? And imagine the live stream's getting flagged. What a surprise, right? This is why you have to like it and share it, guys, because this is the kind of stuff that will happen. They will flag the live stream. We're only reading their own sources, engaging with their Muslims, but they'll still flag it and try and report it for hate speech or for whatever they're going to report it for. This is why we say like it and subscribe and share the live stream. All right, well, let's continue. He says, a cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. And the reason why I think this is so mind-boggling to me is because he's just finished saying women are the dumbest people around. But somehow, people that are so dumb and are going to be the majority of people feeling hell somehow can convince and persuade sensible people. How does that make sense? How can the dumbest people convince sensible people? Can someone help me make sense of that? Because that doesn't make sense to me. But let's continue. And definitely, I fully agree. This is a wild hadith. And it continues. This is a clear reason why Islam is bad for women and Christianity is better. Because like I said to the previous caller, Christianity doesn't teach that the majority of people in hell are women. Christianity doesn't teach that women are deficient in mind, the dumbest people around. This is what Islam teaches in their sources. But you will have Muslims confidently posting videos that get hundreds of thousands and over 1 million views talking about how Islam honors women more than Christianity. I would love for the guy in that video or any Muslim to tell me how this is something which honors women in Islam more than Christianity. But let's continue. Cool. And then he says, the woman asked, does this sound like a dumb woman? Not to me. She's asking questions. Questions are great. It's always good to ask questions. That's how you grow. That's what smart people do. The woman asked, O Allah's messenger, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion? So she wants to know, wait, hold on. You've seen that the majority of people in hell are women. And you've told us that it's because they're ungrateful and they have a deficient mind. Okay. This seems like an intelligent person who can track a conversation and is trying to get to the root of the scenario. So then the women ask a follow-up question. What is deficient? What makes us dumb in our intelligence or in our religion? Isn't that a good question? I would think that's a good question. It doesn't sound like this is someone who has a deficient mind or is dumb to me. It actually sounds very smart. Then it says, he said, is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of 1 man? And they replied in the affirmative. So they said yes. So Muhammad's response is, the reason why you are deficient in your intelligence is because 2 men, 1 man's witness is equal to 2 women. So if we track what he's basically saying here, women are the dumbest people he's seen. He hasn't seen anyone dumber than a Muslimah. And on top of that, the reason why is because they're half-brained. It takes 2 women to testify in comparison to 1 man. I.e., 2 women equal to 1 man. And bear in mind, this is all about deficiency in intelligence. So 2 women equal 1 man's intelligence. But somehow Islam is a religion that honors women more than Christianity. And then he continues, and this is the deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it okay? We read that part. Okay, and isn't it true? Okay, so this is a deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during the menses? The woman replied in the affirmative. She said yes. He said this is deficiency in the deficiency in the religion. So, because they're in a situation, hold on a second. Imagine, guys, I've got banned on my live stream. Crazy. We'll continue anyway. Let's keep going. It happens. But again, I'll say it to you. This is why you have to continue to share and to like it, because there's going to be people out there who are going to report stuff and complain and say whatever. And again, we're just reading their sources, which is crazy. All right. So this source is crystal clear. Women have a deficient mind. Women are half of a man when it comes to the testimony, i.e., women, according to Islam, are half-brained. This is what we have to engage in. And you know the funniest thing? I'm pretty sure it's most likely Muslim men reporting and complaining about the live stream, not Muslim women. But somehow it's the women who are deficient in mind. The men who are apparently supposed to be so smart can't come up and explain how this all makes sense. But they'll act as cowards behind the scenes and report live streams and try and get channels banned and restricted and live stream blocks and all that kind of stuff. Right? And it's true. This is why I said to that last caller, he doesn't why would you go along with your sister talking about how she's not all there, she's deficient in mind, etc. You should be saying the complete opposite. No, you are more than capable. God has created you to be a capable being, to think and to rationalize. We are made in God's image and his likeness. Why wouldn't you say those sorts of things? Why would you go along with her and say, okay, yeah, this is what you believe, so I'm just going to leave you there? And it's true, because they want their women to be fools. They don't want their women to become wise. Because if they become wiser, the wiser a Muslim becomes, the more they realize they're in the wrong religion. The more they realize this isn't for them, which is crazy. Right? And exactly. Muhammad's answer to her, if you track it in that hadith, is, you are dumb because you are dumb. But this is the same person who said in the hadith, a dumb person, the dumbest person, can convince and persuade and put and destroy someone who's smart. You're dumb because you're dumb. This is amazing. All right. So I guess they didn't like this one. They did not like the fact that the Muslim sources say that a woman is the dumbest person around, according to Muhammad, in intelligence and in religion. All right. Now, let's look at another reason. This is the reason we've been talking to Muslims about for the longest. I'll bring it back up again. And I'm going to look at this video here, right? Because it's a video where last time we looked at Dr. Yasir Qadhi and he was trying to dress up in his own way. The fact that a Muslim man is able to strike, to beat, to scourge, depending on the translation you're reading, a woman. He's allowed to strike, to scourge, to beat his wife. So we looked at last time Dr. Yasir Qadhi try and dress it up and he acknowledged it clearly, right? The live stream's on the channel. You can go back and watch it from last time. He said, you know what, well, look, in some circumstances, which was mind-boggling, he said there were times and seasons when striking your wife would save a marriage. Make that make sense. But he just says, you know what, today, forget step 3. Just forget about it. Skip over it. Just divorce Stallman. But he was saying that because he was ashamed of what the Quran says. And what he knows is clearly in the hadith. So today we're going to look at a completely different Muslim talk about the same passage in the Quran, chapter 4, verse 34, which talks about women who their husbands fear rebellion. And I'm going to keep bringing this up, right? You have an inkling in your mind or in your heart that your wife is being rebellious. you think that your wife is potentially doing something wrong, tell them off, don't sleep in the same beds with them, and then beat them. These are the 3 options that a Muslim man has with his wife, right? Which is crazy, because this is another reason clearly why Islam is bad for women and Christianity is better for women. Because the Bible actually says that your body as a husband isn't your own, it's your wife's. And your wife, to the wife, her body isn't her own, it's her husband's. So the point is, where the Quran is saying in that verse, if you think your woman's getting out of line, you think your wife's doing something behind your back, think, not even if she is doing it, don't sleep in the same bed with her. Christianity says, listen, husbands, don't try and use your body as a weapon in a sexual context. Women, don't try and use your body as a weapon in the same context. The only way that men and women should be separate in Christianity is because they've agreed. They've both agreed, okay, cool, we're going to be taking some time to be apart because we're going to pray and we're going to fast, etc. But it's not the man who can strong arm his wife and say, okay, yeah, that's it. You're not getting any more. You're not getting any. And a wife can't either, biblically speaking, right? Whereas the Quran is saying, look, if it gets to a certain point, just go somewhere else. Don't share the bed with her. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, he turns around and says, look, you can strike your wife. Which again, Christianity doesn't give Christian husbands any sort of right to strike your wife if you are angry or you disagree or anything along those lines. The Bible even talks about, just generally, right? It's not necessarily just for a husband and wife context, but generally, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Basically, don't be going to sleep with wrath still on your head. So it's crazy when you think about the contrasting natures of how husbands treat their wives in Christianity in comparison to how husbands treat their wives in Islam. It's drastically different. But we're going to watch this video of a guy. He's going to give his best reasoning behind why chapter 4 verse 34 isn't talking about beating your wife. So let's watch this and see what he has to say. All right, and again, make sure you're liking the live stream. Make sure you are sharing this out and subscribe if you want to see more live streams like this in the future. Because, as you've already seen in real time, people are going to complain. They're going to try and get our channel shut down because they hate the truth. They hate the truth. They do not want the truth going out because they live in darkness and they want to stay in darkness. But they will do stuff like getting channels restricted and not allowing me to go live and do all these kind of things for a certain amount of days. This is the kind of stuff they do because they're cowards. They're cowards. I was literally thinking about this the other day. I was saying to myself, you know what? Isn't it amazing, right? As Christians, I was thinking about like the disciples in the book of Acts. The disciples are going around, the apostle Paul and Barnabas, they're all going around to different places and they're going around with arguments. They're going around to engage with arguments with other people, and they don't go around looking to fight. They're not looking to go and kill people, right? As believers. Why? Because they know they have the truth on their side. So they want to go out and proclaim the message. They want to engage and speak. They want to have discourse. And I was thinking about the times when Paul and Barnabas, for example, they're going around and they stone Paul because of his preaching, right? They can't deal with what he's saying, so they start getting dirty. They start trying to punch and kick and stone and kill. That's what they do. You can't deal with what someone's saying, so you try to attack them, you try to kill them, you try to stop them any other way instead of being a man, being someone who is confident in the truth and saying, okay, cool, come out, let's have a conversation, let's engage. But no, because they know they cannot engage, they act up and they start acting like cowards and doing all this kind of stuff. Do you think we as Christians go around reporting Muslim streams, even when we know they're lying, when they're deceiving and doing all sorts of like deceptive, devilish tricks to try and get Christians to leave the faith? Do you think we go around reporting them? Of course not. Because we know the truth will always prevail over the darkness. Truth will always prevail over lies. They can't say the same. And because of that, they're cowards. All right, let's watch this video. 434 in the Quran. And even before I say it, I'll just say this one thing. Just understand, You may engage with a Muslim from time to time, and they will say stuff like, well, okay, cool. Islam is good for women. We treat women. We honor women, blah, 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 etc. Right? We've only talked at all those callers was based on one hadith. That was it. Bukhari 304. One hadith. So I'm saying that to say you don't need to know a lot to dispel the lies and the darkness, which it's not all Muslims, but the Muslim apologists who know, like that guy, for example, the last caller, he knew that this was in their Islamic sources. Someone like him. The majority of Muslims don't know this sort of stuff. So if you ever engage with them, if you speak to them, like you don't need to be harsh with them, you don't need to be aggressive with them, etc. If someone's being aggressive with you verbally, yeah, you can answer a call according to his folly. So he's not wise in his own eyes. Okay, that's your wise discretion to do. But generally speaking, a lot of these Muslims don't know this. A lot of Muslims don't know this. Why? Because like the comment was saying before, I'll show it again. Muslim men that really know this stuff, they don't want their women to become wise. Because when they're wise, they will know they're in the wrong place. So here's a guy who's going to break down chapter 4, verse 34. And let's listen to what he has to say. Let's skip this. All right. You hear that? This is probably the most controversial verse in the Quran these days. I wonder why. Is it because this is a verse in the Quran which says you can beat your wife with a little toothbrush as a symbol, a little miswak, a little toothpick as a symbol? Is that why this is the most controversial verse? Or is it because this verse says something completely different and they know it? All right, let's continue. What's so funny about this? Three options, right? I mentioned them before. Tell them off, separate from them in beds, and then strike them, beat them, scourge them. So we as Islamophobes, he would call someone like me as an Islamophobe, right? I'm not afraid of Islam, but there you go. They would call someone like us, I'm an Islamophobe. Someone like, you would have to call someone like Dr. Yasser Qadhi, who we've looked at and engaged with in previous live streams. You'd have to call someone like him an Islamophobe because he agrees with people like me that the verse is saying you can hit your wife, you can beat your wife. Is he as Islamophobe or is he just being truthful? So just notice, I talk about this all the time. Beware of the ad hominem. Beware of the ad hominem. Okay, we're going to have to go back. We're going to go back because I'm hearing there's no audio. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back.
The Quran prescribes.
He was basically saying, thank you for the comment, letting me know. He was basically saying, I'll play it again, but he was basically saying, look, you know, let's just play it. We'll play it and then we'll run it. We'll run it back.
Fear or
give me the thumbs up so you can hear it, guys, please.
Them committing nushuz. We'll explain what nushuz is. The Quran prescribes 3 steps to fix this problem of nushuz. 3 instructions from the Quran. فَعُذُوهُنَّ, number 1. وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, number 2. وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, hit them, number 3. And that's why this is called the wife-beating verse, especially by those Islamophobes or those who are critical of the Holy Quran. How do we
you
understand a verse like
this? So you heard him, yeah? You heard him. This verse in the Quran gives you 3 options. Tell them off, separate from beds, and then strike them. And he would call someone like me an Islamophobe. Someone who says, this is the wife-beating verse. And this is what I was saying before. So he would have to call, by the same logic, someone like Dr. Yasser Qadi an Islamophobe. Someone who clearly acknowledges what it says as a wife-beating verse, right? You know what he would also have to do? I'll show you. Let's look at some translations. In fact, what I'm going to do, let me move this over so you can see this even better, right? All right, so let's read through some of these translations. We're reading through them over and over again, right? Session by session. The Aubrey translation, notice what it says, 434. It says, and those you fear may be rebellious, admonish, tell them off, banish them to their couches, right? Remove them, don't share beds with them. And then it says, beat them, right? Beat them. So you'd have to call someone like Aubrey, someone who is clearly understands the Arabic and has translated it in this way, to beat them, as someone who is not an Islamophobe, someone who is translating the Quran for the bigger Muslim audience. Most of the people in the world who are Muslim don't read and don't understand Arabic. So Aubrey would be a Islamophobe, someone who is calling it the wife-beating verse. Hilali Khan. This one says, beat them. And then in brackets it says, lightly, which is a false translation. It doesn't say lightly in the Arabic. But notice, isn't it funny? It says, if it is useful. So there's a scenario where it can be useful to beat your wife. Make that make sense. Let's continue. So you've got someone like Aubrey, the top one, who is being true to what the Arabic says. You've got someone like Hilali Khan, who's going to fabricate and mistranslate the Arabic. I would say that person is an Islamophobe. Pickthall says, what does Pickthall say? He says, scourge them. Is Pickthall an Islamophobe because he's saying that the passage had scourged them? Is Sahih International, one of the most popular English translations of the Quran, being an Islamophobe when it says strike them? Or are they just being truthful to what the text says and not trying to dress it up? And then let's do one more, Yusuf Ali. Yusuf Ali, just like the previous one we looked at from before earlier on, says beat them, but then tries to put in brackets the fake translation. It doesn't say lightly in the Arabic, beat them lightly. So the point is clear and obvious. To anyone who doesn't have an agenda, to anybody who doesn't hate truth, that the realness is, it says, beat your wife. It does say that. That's what the Arabic actually says. All right? And this is a good question. So not wanting to beat your wife makes you an Islamophobe. This is the kind of broken Mohammedan logic, like Muhammad saying you're dumb because you're dumb, they have to deal with. And this is what I was saying earlier. I don't think the Muslim sources saying women are deficient in mind, I don't think that's the full picture, you know. I really think like the Muslim men have something to say in that race as well. But let's continue, okay? Let's listen to what he has to say. And that's what I was going to say. Thank you, Lord. This is one of the things I was going to say before. I always say this, be careful when you're engaging with different people about the ad hominem, the attack of the character. Instead of dealing with our arguments, you want to begin with saying things which are attacks on the person, calling us Islamophobes, calling us XYZ and stuff like this, instead of actually just engaging with the arguments and saying, okay, cool. This is where the argument makes sense, this is where it doesn't, whatever you're going to say about the argument, but don't muddy the well, as they say. Let's keep going.
A lot of people say God, with all his might and all his rahmah, and God is the legislator, he commands men to beat their wives? What kind of religion is this? Yes, brother.
Isn't that a good question? Isn't that a reasonable question that I'm pretty sure most women would think of? if they heard about this. And I'm pretty sure most sensible thinking men would think about this. Even if they thought about themselves a lot, but if they had just a little bit of decency to think to themselves, okay, cool. Well, my mum's a female. My wife's a female. And maybe they may want to beat their wife so much, but even if you just disregard your wife, surely they would have enough sense to say to themselves, okay, cool, my mum's a female. My daughter's a female. She's going to get married. My sisters are females. They're going to get married. Surely they would think, and it would be a reasonable question to ask, okay, cool. Like, would God really say it's okay for a husband to strike his wife? I think that's a reasonable question.
I think you talked about this last year, the year before. I don't remember when. Well, isn't it they can't leave a bruise mark? Something like that. I don't know what it was.
We'll talk about the details, yes. We'll get about the details.
So the person in the audience, one of the people in the class said, isn't it there something which talks about not leaving a mark? This is what you hear a lot of Muslims today say. They'll talk about the miswak, the toothpick, right? And the toothbrush. Some will say and try and go all the way and say, no, it's just symbolic. It doesn't mean anything serious. Some will acknowledge it and say, okay, no, you know what? Okay, cool. You are allowed to do it, but you don't leave a mark. The problem with that is when you start getting into the sources in Islam, there's so many sources. We've looked at them over and over again, and I'm sure we'll continue to look at them in the future. There's so many sources out there which are showcasing that the Muslim men weren't taking this serious. They were doing things which, like serious beatings, and for a load of different reasons.
Let's just put some quick perspective about this verse to understand it. Marriage is a contract between the husband and a wife. Nobody can force you into this contract. That's why in the religion of Islam, the consent of the wife is a condition for the marriage to be valid. If she's forced, Islam does not even recognize the validity of this marriage.
And I hope he's not saying that to say, well, no one forces you into the marriage. So if you go into the marriage, you go into the marriage knowing what's the potential. I hope that's not the line of reasoning he's trying to present. But
the consensual contract. Okay. Whenever you enter a contract with someone, you have to honor that contract. If you make a business contract, political contract, whatever it is, there are consequences. A legal contract comes with consequences. If one of the parties decides to not fulfill their side of the contract, their obligations, and they want to break that contract, aren't there consequences? In society, legally, you could be fined, you could go to jail for breaking contracts.
Okay. I'm sure we can all agree. Yes, you sign a contract, you enter into some sort of agreement, you have to fulfill your obligations in the deal. And if you don't, yes, there are potential punishments, there are potential ramifications, etc. We can all agree to that. I hope he's not saying, number one, they knew what they were getting into. Number two, they know the punishments of not fulfilling their obligations, which one of them would be striking. I hope that's not the approach he's going to take.
Marriage is one of the most serious contracts in your life.
Okay.
Breaking that marital contract is a big violation. It's wrong. It's unjust. And there must be consequences.
Okay. And what's interesting about this is why I always go back to this verse, and I'll continue to highlight this. Notice what the verse says. Because as Christians, as just a human, right, whether you're religious or not, we could pretty much be in very much lock in step with what he said so far, in agreement. Someone breaks a contract, breaks a covenant, breaks an agreement, there's going to be some sort of punishment. Okay, cool. Let's read this. It says, where is it? And those you fear may be rebellious. Who's caught it? This is such a good point in tearing down what this guy's saying. I need to make sure you lot can see this clearly. He just said it's a serious thing to breach an agreement, and I agree. Marriage is a serious agreement. I agree. We all agree. But it says, those you fear may be rebellious. If you think someone may be doing something, is that someone breaking an agreement? Is that someone breaking a contract or a covenant? Or you think someone may be doing it. You don't have the proof. You don't have the evidence yet. You could think something in your mind or in your heart for many different reasons. That doesn't make it true. But how does that now translate into telling them off, banishing them from their beds, or beating them? You see how when you try to dress up nonsense, you look like a fool. Because the verse isn't saying someone has broken an agreement. It's saying the husband thinks something may be going on. He thinks something may be going on. But that's not the same as something has been going on. And even if that was the case, something had been going on, that doesn't even justify striking your wife. But this is the folly that trying to dress up wickedness will take you to. And they just don't see it because they're so focused on, how do I make this palatable? How do I make this look good to the people that are going to be that want to know about this particular question? This is how they fumble.
Okay. The husband has his obligations. He has to provide financially.
Unless, okay, cool. Unless, just thinking about this now. Unless his point would have to be something like, as a wife, part of your covenant agreement is to never make your husband feel like you're being rebellious. I guess that's what he'd have to be implying based on what he's saying. In the contract, when you enter the contract as a Muslim woman, you have to enter knowing that you better not make your husband think, even for a second, that you are being rebellious. Don't even make him fear that you're being rebellious. Because if you do, these are the three options that are coming for you. I guess that's what he'd have to be saying that.
For his wife, he has to spend on her clothing, transportation, food, whatever it is. He has to give her the time that she needs. There are responsibilities that he has to honor. The wife also has marital responsibilities. And one of the marital responsibilities is her making herself available physically to the husband for intimacy. He also, of course, has to honor that as well. But this is part of the contract. Okay.
And for women in Islam, again, anytime he wants, anytime he likes, just so you know what's like the Islamic framework. She has to make herself available anytime he likes. And what's actually funny about that, or what's crazy about that is, again, I mentioned this previously when we was contrasting. We'll continue to contrast. This is why Islam is bad for women and Christianity is better, because the Bible talks about how a man and a woman, they come to an agreement. It's about, there's two of them. The man isn't just, oh yeah, it's all about me. The woman isn't, it's all about me. It's about the unit. It's about them, right? You can't weaponize yourself either way. That's not how this works in Christianity. But in Islam, whenever the man wants it, she has to be ready and she has to give it up. And even think about it, because again, he's building his framework here, right? A woman enters a contract. A woman has obligations to fulfill. If you don't fulfill your obligations, you run the risk of putting yourself in a situation where you get punishment. So for example, if a woman doesn't make herself available the way she's supposed to in Islam, anytime he likes, there's the three options. Tell her off, stop engaging with her in the bedroom, and then strike. Which again, this is one of the reasons why Muslim scholars don't all take this interpretation that it's about making yourself available. And it's just a wider context or a different context, because if you're trying to make yourself, if you want that from your wife, why separate? If you actually want to actually connect, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But this is Islam.
Now, let's say a wife, for no reason, breaks this contract and she says, no, I'm not sleeping with my husband anymore. Well, why? Do you have a medical concern? If she has a medical excuse, that's fine. She has that right. What's a medical concern? Let's say it's harmful for her. She's going through a medical condition. She cannot be intimate anymore. That's fine. That's to be respected. Or let's say her husband has AIDS. She says, I don't want to acquire AIDS or HIV or whatever it is. Or he has a STD. I want to protect myself from that. That's a valid, legitimate excuse. Okay. So assuming that's not the case, she has no medical excuse, it's not harmful to her, and the husband is not abusive. Because remember, if he's abusive or he falls short of his responsibilities and he decides to beat her or he decides to not spend on her, she no longer has to make herself available. If the husband, the next few months he says, I'm not spending on my wife anymore, let her go work. If he does that, she doesn't have to make herself available to him anymore. You broke the contract? I don't have to honor my side of the contract. You see the idea here with the contract? Now, if the husband...
Okay, but it's interesting he's saying this, but okay, what are the punishments for the man? Because he's talking based on this verse, which is showcasing punishments for the women for apparently breaking their agreements, even though that's not what the verse says. The verse just says he fears rebellion. If he fears rebellion for whatever reason, then he can engage in these options, 1, 2, or 3. If the man says, okay, I'm not fulfilling my agreements, what punishment does he get? So he's totally changed like the context of what the verse is actually talking about to a specific example, and then he's trying to worm his way out of it in that way. But this is why you have to read what the verse says and engage with what the verse is actually saying, not what you want it to say.
And is honoring his side. He's spending on her, he's not abusive, he's doing everything that a responsible man should do. And she has no excuse for not making herself available to the husband. She either wants to hurt him, hurt the relationship, or maybe she has an affair with someone, or she's interested in someone. See, no legitimate excuse. Maybe at work she's met someone and she's like, you know what, let me get rid of this husband. I don't want to be intimate with him anymore. Well, why? Do you have a legitimate excuse? She doesn't have a legitimate excuse. Islam says this is a breach of contract. She's now nashiz. From her side, she's breaching the contract. She's refusing to make herself available for the husband. This has consequences. Because see, when a wife does not make herself available to the husband, what are the consequences on the marriage? The marriage fails. Intimacy is very important to glue the marriage. Now, when the husband is not, getting his fulfillment at home, what's naturally going to happen? He's going to look elsewhere for that intimacy. And that destroys the marriage.
And what's funny about that is it doesn't destroy the marriage necessarily, because in Islam, a Muslim man can have more than one wife. So if he's married to a woman and for some reason they're not having intercourse anymore, he is trying to present it as if he has no options. He can't do anything about it. Like, he could actually have other women. Who's to say he isn't married to another woman? You could have another wife, another 3 wives. So it's not necessarily about breaking down the marriage. That's not as simple as that, especially in Islam, because you're not just tied to one woman in Islam.
He's going to enter into another relationship, right? That's naturally what happens. So if the wife...
And the reason I'm saying that is because it seems to me he's trying to present it as if you're forcing him to do something which is sinful in Islam, which is well within the bounds. It's acceptable in Islam to marry another woman.
Has no excuse in not making herself available to the husband. The Quran says we have a problem here. We need to solve this. So what do you do about this? The Quran prescribes 3 steps. Step number 1, فَعْظُهُنْ. You, the husband, go, give her advice, talk to her, see what's the matter with her. Something bugging you, something annoying you, let's fix it, let's work on it. And maw'idha in Arabic means nice words of advice, admonishment. Just talk to them, tell them, look, this is not okay. This is taking...
Imagine, nice words of advice, admonishment. They're not the same thing. He's trying to paint, say good words. Admonish is the telling off. You tell them off. You are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Fix up. That's what it's talking about. Not, kind words and all that kind of stuff. That's not what an admonishment is. If you admonish someone, you're telling them off.
a toll on the marriage. Let's fix this. Hopefully that should solve the situation. If the husband is polite, respectful, and if she really has an issue, a concern, a problem, he should fix it. So that's the first step. See the beauty of the Quran?
Not in Islam, no. And even if you think back to the last time we were live and we were looking at Dr. Yasir Qadhi's video, one of his videos, he was saying, he's like, look, if a woman's not in the mood, she should just get on with it, because it's better that the man gets fulfilled ultimately than the woman. That would be the bigger problem. If the man is not fulfilled and he's angry or whatever, that is the bigger problem than the slight stress or whatever that the woman will have at the time. So he was like, look, just get on with it. And the reason why he's saying that is because obviously he already knows what the sources say in Islam. A man can come to his wife whenever he wants, however he wants. So, yeah. Let's keep going.
So number one. So that's the first step. See the beauty of the Quran.
The beauty of the Quran. Tell them off. But he dresses it up and says, no, speak good words to them.
So number one, فَعْظُهُنْ. Give them advice, talk to them, try to solve it in a nice way. It didn't work. The woman is not being responsive. All those words of advice out the window. She still refuses to make herself available to the husband. Okay, what do you do? Should you just let it go like that? Well, this is going to take a toll on the marriage. It's going to ruin the... Remember, it was a contract. She has to honor the contract. Nobody forced her to enter this contract. So she has to respect the terms of the contract if he's respecting the terms of the contract. It's not fair for him to respect his side, for her not to respect her side. It's not fair. So the Quran says, as a second step, if the first step didn't work, some people, advice doesn't work with them, وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. Go on a strike. How? The Quran says to the men, show them that their behavior is unacceptable and that you will ignore them. Go sleep in a different room. Show them it's not okay for them to continue this behavior.
But the other room doesn't have the comfortable mattress.
So as an example, boycott them. If I want to use a word that gets the idea, boycott them. Put pressure on them that way. Yes.
And just understand, I say this all the time, it's like clearly there's levels. This is an increase. So when people get to the whole, yeah, it's a toothbrush, it's symbolic, it's the little miswak, you understand that, no, like there's levels. It's clearly an elevation in these options. Things are getting harsher and harsher as time goes on. And he's kind of alluded to that already. You admonish them and then it's like, now you boycott them. You tell them, you show them this is serious. You don't move away.
Yes.
It says fil madaji'. I've heard one scholar actually, because that was the understanding that I initially had too, which was just go sleep in a different room on the couch or something. He says, no, fil madaji' means no, you stay in the same bed, but you turn away from them.
Yes, scholars have mentioned both actually. Probably the hadith mentions both examples. So one level of boycotting them is to turn away from them in the bed. Like for him to give his back to her.
Sleep with your back to your wife.
To let her know that he's upset. This is not okay. Her behavior should not be tolerated like that. Let's try to work this. So if she's just being rebellious, the first level is turn your back. In the bed, yes. That's the first step. But another example scholars have given is that the next step after that is just to altogether go to a different room.
Only one of them has been mentioned by the imams?
Possibly both, because remember, this comes in levels or examples.
Levels, see? Levels. There's levels to this.
So the idea is don't sleep next to them anymore. Either put some distance by putting your back, or altogether go to a different room. So yes, scholars have mentioned that as well. Both examples are mentioned. Now, if you see the linguistic meaning of وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ is ignore them or abandon them in bed. That's just the linguistic meaning. Well, what do you understand from that phrase?
وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ would be like, make hijrah.
Well, hajarahu means he, when you get in a fight with your brother or somebody, and then for 3 days you just stop talking to each other, what do you call that in English?
Ignore.
Other than ignore, do we have another term for it?
Cold shoulder.
Yeah, giving someone the cold shoulder, right? Ignore. In Arabic, they call this hajarahu. That's why the hadith says, "Man hajara akhahu al-Muslim thalathata ayyam falaysa bi-Muslim." The one who ignores his Muslim brother or boycotts him like that for 3 days and he doesn't talk to him anymore is not a true Muslim. No, any other Muslim. Akhahu al-Muslim. Yeah, that means being on bad terms with other Muslims is haram in Islamic law.
What if that person was a bad person?
Yeah, if that person is harming you, of course, protect yourself from their harm. But if it's a dispute over an issue, you've seen people, they have a dispute, they start talking to each other, it's haram. So this is called hajr. Yes, the hijrah comes from the root word because now you're leaving, abandoning your old place and going to a new place. It's the same concept, but hajarahu means he boycotted him, he ignored him. Yes?
I feel like I'm missing something. If the woman is acting like this to begin with, and she doesn't want to be with him, why would she care if he turns his back on her?
If you didn't hear it, it's a woman, she said, okay, she's missing it, she's not getting it. And I guess they'll say she's got a deficient mind, but she asked this question. If it's really about not wanting to be with him, why would she care if option 2 comes into force and he turns his back on her in the bed or he goes into a different room? Isn't that a reasonable, sensible question? That is one example which shows you why this isn't just talking about, oh yeah, she's not fulfilling her intimate obligations to him, etc. But let's hear what he's going to say.
That's a good question. So basically, the woman in this example, she is living with the husband. She's still living with him, but she's just not allowing she's not making herself physically available for him.
Where else would she be going if she's his wife? Of course she's going to be living with him. And he's okay, yeah, she's just not making herself physically available for him. But again, the question she asked, you're not answering the question. If this is about not making herself available to him, why would she care if she doesn't want to make herself available to him if he turns his back or if he goes somewhere else? This is the kind of thing which makes you realize that even if it was talking about this particular scenario only, even though the verse says if he fears rebellion, the reason this would actually lead credence to the fact he is going to beat her up. He can strike her. He can strike her, he can scourge her. Because if she doesn't want to make herself readily available to him and he turns his back on her or sleeps in a different bed, she will be knowing it's definitely not going to be a miswak that's coming for me at some point in the future. He's going to come and potentially beat me, strike me, scourge me, as the different English translation of the Quran say.
But she's still sleeping in the same room with him, but she does not want physical intimacy.
Where is she going to be sleeping? It's the marriage bed.
So when the Quran says do that, it's a way, it's just an expression to say boycott her. And that's why scholars have mentioned go in a different room, do some other things. Because they don't take the verse literally, they're taking the spirit of the verse. And in Arabic, if you want to say, ignore someone, stop talking to them, just turn your back on them. Basically, when you sleep, turn your back on someone. That means you're upset. Show the wife that you really are upset, that this is important.
But again, he hasn't dealt with the question the woman asked. This is, again, we talked about this earlier on. This is Muhammad saying you're dumb because you're dumb. It's not really answering the question. It's just you're saying something, but you're actually not answering the question. She said, why would he care? Why would she care if he turns his back? If he goes to sleep somewhere else? If she doesn't want to give him any intimacy? That would fall right in line. She would want that to happen. If this is actually the case. Which again would make it more likely that this is actually really talking about a beating Because once she sees that he's gone from the bed, he's turned his back, she knows what's actually going to come next. It's not going to be a miswak. It's not going to be a little toothpick or a little toothbrush. He's going to beat her because this is now option number 3. He's just saying stuff, but actually not answering what she said.
Right? So...
But she apparently is the one with the deficient mind. Make that make sense.
By the way, there are multiple tafsirs of this verse. You know, Brother Ali, you mentioned the other tafsir where a man is sensing that his wife is probably being intimate with someone else, and he detects her lack of interest in him because of that. So the Quran says, give them advice, warn them, admonish them. If that doesn't work...
Again, if that's the case, let's say she is focused on some other man or something along those lines, that would fall in line with the question the woman asked. He literally got stumped by a woman. That would fall in line with the fact she wouldn't want him to be in the bed. She wouldn't care if he turns his back. She wouldn't care if he goes to a different room.
Them advice, warn them, admonish them. If that doesn't work, then stop being intimate with them.
And the crazy thing about this as well is he just mentioned before, oh, there's tafsir, there's commentaries around this verse which talk about difference. There's literally commentary on the verse which talks about this verse is in the Quran because a man slapped his wife in the face. And she wanted to get retaliation. She went to Muhammad and said, look, my husband just slapped me in the face. She went with her dad. And Muhammad apparently says, okay, yeah, go and get retaliation. And then as they're leaving, he says, actually, hold on. I've just got a new revelation. You can't get retaliation.
Right? Turn your back in bed. That's another tafsir. It's not a common tafsir that the hadith supports.
So just notice he sidestepped her question because he couldn't deal with it.
It's just a new understanding, reading of the verse. But if you look at the ahadith that explain this verse, that's not the tafsir they present. They present the first tafsir that we're talking about.
So if somebody doesn't want to just look at hadith period and then Quran is the authentic source, then how do you rectify that?
The guy said, well, what if someone doesn't want to look at the hadith? So someone like a Quran only Muslim who only takes the Quran or sees the Quran as on the higher level than the hadith.
Well, when someone examines a verse in the Holy Quran, because the Quran can have a number of interpretations, it's important to know which tafsir those who had authority gave us, right? So it's...
And just to simplify that, what he means is a lot of the Quran doesn't make sense without commentary, without hadith, etc. So you need the hadith, you need the tafsir, you need this external commentary on the Quran to understand a lot of what the Quran is actually saying.
Very important to know what the Prophet or the Imams commented on this verse. I cannot just take a verse like that and let's look at this linguistically and what it means. Yeah, it's not possible. Yeah.
Well, you can do that because some verses are clear. The Quran even says that. This is a book. It says it in the Quran so often. This is a book which is clear and it's everything is clear in the book basically. It says something like that multiple times in the Quran. It's a clear book. It's clear for you to understand, etc. So, but just naturally speaking, you can read certain things and understand what it's saying. This is why I keep going back to, if you fear rebellion, it's not the person who's being rebellion, you fear it. You have some sort of inkling or some, I don't know why I can't say that word today, but you have some sort of thought in your mind or something along the lines of, well, look, something's going on here. It doesn't say she did it. It just, maybe she did it.
The linguistic meaning helps us with the overall tafsir. Linguistic analysis of the Quran is beautiful. It makes you better appreciate the tafsir. But it cannot make you create your own story of what's going on. You would have to refer to the tafsir. Yes?
One question about this second thing, which is to stay away from them in the bed.
Yeah, to like boycott them, yeah.
Is it just a kind of punishment and warning to them, or can it also mean that it's not beneficial for the marriage at this time, if this is what the relationship looks like, for you to even be close to each other at that time?
Basically, it's a punishment for them. It's a punishment.
It's not a punishment for them. It's supposed to be, like he said, a punishment for her.
In the sense that you, the wife, now that you're not honoring the marital contract, there will be consequences. And the consequence is that I'll boycott you.
So it's a punishment for her. But for some reason, he's saying talking like it's a punishment for them.
Now, a lot of women under that pressure, they might change their behavior.
Especially if you know that what's coming next is a beat or a strike or a scourge.
A lot of women will tell you, the worst thing is for my husband to ignore me, right?
Especially if you know what's coming next in the verse.
Have you heard that? The worst thing is for my husband to ignore me. Ignoring her like that for a prolonged period of time, for some women that is effective. And they'll reconsider the violation of the marriage contract.
Could it also be like, okay, put it on pause, there could be other issues in the marriage? I mean, marriage isn't only about that, but maybe the other things need to be fixed.
But like what other things?
I mean, I don't know.
What other things? Imagine. And this is what's funny, because when you go back to option number 1, speak to them, right? He's basically said that, well, look, maybe there's something wrong, and you have a conversation with her about this sort of stuff, and then you basically fix it and stuff like that. Like, it's almost like he doesn't even process the fact that there could be serious things in a marriage that could be the reason why she is in that particular mindset. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. He's trying to force it into, oh, this is the scenario this verse is for if she's not making herself available, when that's not necessarily the case. The verse doesn't say that.
Other factors in your life that could be affecting how close you are to each other. I don't know, I'm just asking.
Like just not listening to her husband whenever, I guess, when he wants something or wishes something else. Like, don't go outside at this particular point in time. So you say, referring to examples like anything else, could you use that second reason as a boycotting mechanism due to the fact that she's not listening to you for those other wishes that you may have? But I think from that standpoint now, if you're being just or not.
You mean if the wife is making other...
Don't go to the mall today.
Okay. So he tells her don't go to the mall today?
But she doesn't.
She does. So then he should boycott her. Okay, if he has a legitimate reason why... If he has a legitimate reason why he's preventing her from something, or she's doing something inappropriate, then yes. We can take the spirit of Quran, that number 1, advice. Good.
See, notice what he just did then. The guy asked him a question. Can we use this in different scenarios? Imagine, for example, you say, don't go to the mall, and she goes to the mall. And he says, yes. But what was actually slippery, I think it's slippery. He's like, look, or you can use the spirit, which, okay, but the verse says, if you fear rebellion. So if you, as a Muslim man, say to your Muslim wife, don't go to the mall, and she doesn't listen to you and she goes to the mall, in your mind, well, she's being rebellious. Of course you could then turn around and say, I'm going to tell you off, or I'm going to banish, etc. But he's basically saying, look, yes, you can action these things.
Words, talk to her. If that doesn't work, then apply pressure. Through boycotting, for instance, or through ignoring. Yes, of course. We can take the spirit of Quran, and not just this fundamental problem in the marriage, but any other problem in marriage, it can be solved through this way, absolutely. If one side is doing something wrong.
If the wife is doing something wrong, because this verse is about the wife doing something wrong. Or no, this verse, again, let me not buy what he's selling, because he's obviously buying something different to what the Quran is saying. If you fear rebellion from your wife, as a Muslim man.
What the other problems could potentially be that you may be having.
No, I meant like marriage as an institution, it could be built on like what creates love, what the friendship between the husband and the wife, and how.
Yeah, but by him turning his back, what is that achieving? To work on other areas of the marriage?
I'm saying like if you have a problem in your marriage, it's not the right time for that. So like stay away from each other.
No tafsir supports that, yeah. And even if you consult like counselors, psychologically, physically, all counselors, when they're doing marriage counseling, they definitely recommend the intimacy should be there. It always will speed up the recovery in other areas as well, definitely. There is rarely a case where a counselor would, tell them, okay, stop being physically intimate with each other and work on other issues. It just makes it worse and makes them more cold towards each other, definitely. So that's not a meaning scholars have understood from the Quran. So this is the second step. Now let's say this doesn't help either.
Finally.
She doesn't care. In fact, she's happy that he's turning his back on her.
Imagine, see, he went from one, now he's on the opposite side with the woman. Imagine, yeah, he's happy, see? he couldn't deal with it. Now he's made it a joke as, oh yeah, let's say she doesn't care.
Let's just say. Remember, you still need to save the marriage. So the Quran, as a last resort, says something that a lot of people find controversial. وَضْرِبُوهُنْ.
How is that saving the marriage?
We'll talk about that.
I'm not quite,
No, we'll talk about that. Yes, brother.
How is that saving the marriage?
Controversial. وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. Resort
I'm going back.
says something that you still need to save the marriage. So the Quran, as a last resort, says something that a lot of people find controversial.
A lot of people find it's controversial. What is controversial about? Why would people find it controversial? No, let me say this the right way. Why is it a surprise that people find this verse controversial, this part of the verse? And notice,
وَضْرِبُوهُنْ.
just watch this, listen.
How is that saving the marriage?
If you didn't hear what the guy asked, he said, how is that saving the marriage? Remember Yasser Qadi in the previous live stream? He heard him say, oh yeah, there was a time in a season where doing step number 3, and he was clearly acknowledging that it's striking your wife, it could save the marriage. This guy in the class is asking the question, the reasonable question, which he's asking, which I'm sure many Muslims are asking, how is that going to save the marriage?
We'll talk about that.
I'm not quite,
No, we'll talk about that. Yes, brother.
See how he didn't even want to get into it until it's on his own terms. So he's just quickly moving to the next. We'll talk about it.
Does Islam advise going to a therapist to deal with the marriage problems?
See, the Quran gives us an example during that time, that if there's a marital problem, go and bring an arbitrator from her family, an arbitrator from your family, as counselors who will work on the case. So yes, the idea of going to a counselor is mentioned in the Quran. But at the time, they didn't have counselors like we do today. The way to resolve these matters is to have someone from her family represent her, someone from his family representing them, and then they could work it out. But yes, the idea of going to a counselor is actually an idea that Islam recommends. Of course, a counselor who's aware of our laws as well, not somebody who's going to take you the other way. Because there are some counselors who go by different standards. We have to make sure it's a moral standard that's compatible with the religion of Islam.
Because obviously, you can't go to some counselor who's going to turn around and be like, well, these 3 options don't make any sense. You can't have it as speaker, then banish from beds and then all of a sudden strike. That's not going to work. It has to be obviously someone who believes in this and is trying to enforce it.
So the Quran says, وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. What does this mean? وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. The word ضرب in Arabic has many meanings, right? They call it the wife beating verse, but that's not fair because beating in Arabic the word ضرب can be used to refer to beating, but it has many meanings.
So imagine, like, that doesn't make sense. He says they call it the wife beating verse, but that's not fair. Well, the question is, why would they call it the wife beating verse? And his first defense here so far is, well, the word has multiple different meanings. And most people that know enough aren't going to deny that. But the point is, as we know, many words have various different meanings. And how we decide what the word means in a particular scenario is the context of the words that surround it. So let me give you an example. If I say, for example, I was driving earlier on and I was flying. You know that what I mean is I was driving very fast because you have the context of me being in a car. If I turn around and say, well, I was in the airport the other day and we were flying from XYZ, from London to America. You know I'm not driving fast in a car, even though I'm using the same word. Because we know flying has a different meaning based on a different situation, a different context. I could be flying in my car, meaning I'm driving fast. I could be flying literally in an airplane from one country to the next. We understand that the word can have a different meaning, and we determine that based on the situation. So for him to just be like, well, yeah, it means different things. Okay, cool. Most people understand it means different things. It has different contexts and different scenarios, etc. The point is, what is the context in this particular passage? So it could mean something else, he says. Okay, yeah, but it could also mean to beat and to strike and to scourge. It could mean that. So anyone who comes to that interpretation isn't an Islamophobe, isn't fudging the data, isn't being uncharitable. If you think they're being Islamophobic, this is why I showed you the other translations earlier from the Quran. This is why I spoke about Dr. Yasir Qadi. Is he like, does he hate his religion? Or is he just saying, well, look, when I look at all of this stuff, this is the best interpretation contextually of what this actually means.
One of the meanings of dharb is to travel.
Okay, it means to travel. So one of the meanings is to travel. So in this verse, you fear rebellion. You fear your wife may be rebellious. Talk to them. Move, turn your back on them in bed, banish them to a different place, and then travel. Go on a long distance. Travel away. Could it mean that? Okay, potentially could mean that. Travel somewhere else. But does that make more sense than striking?
Yes, Allah mentions in the Quran, إِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, when you strike the earth. Striking the earth in Arabic is another way of saying traveling. It's just an Arabic expression. Allah uses that. So Allah uses the word ضَرَبَ in the Quran to refer to traveling.
And it'll be interesting is, okay, just like he gave that example, is he going to give an example in the Quran where it talks about striking off hands or striking off feet or striking necks? It'll be interesting if he does that, to be consistent.
That's one meaning, to travel. By the way, some people today, without evidence from hadith of course, they've taken this meaning and tried to enforce it on the Quran, on this verse, and say, if she's being unresponsive, rebellious, just go on vacation, go on a honeymoon with her, travel. Yeah, travel with them. Some are saying it, but scholars have not really accepted it because the flow doesn't help, the context doesn't help, and the tafsir doesn't help either.
Oh, really? Do you see what he's doing there? Some people have tried to say, yeah, okay, cool. Step 1, talk to them. Step 2, turn your back in bed and go and sleep somewhere else. And step 3, go on vacation, travel away, because that's what the Arabic word can mean. But you heard him just say it there. The scholars, most of the scholars are not taking that because linguistically it doesn't flow. Contextually, it doesn't flow. Do you see how we can understand and come to a conclusion based on what a word means in the context in which it's surrounded? So it makes you think, why even bring this up if you're just going to rubbish it away and say, no, this isn't what it means? You're just wasting time.
But it's an interesting idea. Right?
Interesting, but not true.
Right? Sounds good, huh? Go on vacation, travel, change the environment.
Strike the ground.
So that's one meaning of dharb. Another meaning of dharb is to gently strike something. Have you seen someone doing tayammum? In fact, the hadith in describing tayammum says, hit the ground. Now, does it mean go beat the ground, do tayammum? No. Basically, you just take your hands and you gently strike the earth like that to do the tayammum. That's also dharb. That's one form of dharb. In Arabic, we call it dharb. Yes, and then beating someone is also dharb. So now you can't right off the bat take this meaning, this word in the Quran, dharb, and say, okay, the Quran is saying go beat those women. No, that's unfair. We have to see what the Quran is suggesting here.
But notice, based on what you just said, it's still the same thing. If he's trying to say, well, this word, it can mean beat, to hit in a gentle manner, etc. That's still beating. Let's go back.
Form of dharb. In Arabic, we call it dharb. Yes, and then beating someone is also dharb.
Let's go back more.
The ground, do tayammum says, hit the ground. Now, does it mean go beat the ground, do tayammum?
It means hit the ground, he says. Does it mean go and beat the ground? It means hit. It means the same thing.
Basically, you just take your hand and you gently strike the earth like that to do the tayammum.
And now the question is, let's go back to the question that discombobulated him before from the woman, who apparently has a deficient mind, according to Islam. If she doesn't want to be intimate with him, why would she care when he does option 2 and turns his back on her in the bed or leaves and sleeps somewhere else? If this means, like he's trying to say, just a little tap, again, why would she care if she doesn't want to be intimate with him when he does a little tap? She would laugh at him. It wouldn't solve any situation.
That's also dharb. That's one form of dharb. In Arabic, we call it dharb. Yes, and then beating someone is also dharb.
Okay, so he's just accepted and admitted that for anybody, Muslim, as we've seen before, or non-Muslim who says this is the wife beating verse, they are on very solid ground, because that is a clear interpretation of what that passage, of what that word means.
So now you can't write off the...
But somehow, we are Islamophobes. And what's also crazy about this is, when you think about this, he's saying, well, he gave 3 examples. One means to travel, one means to beat apparently lightly, and one means to beat like beat, right? One of them he disregarded and said, no, it's weak, it's not accepted. So you're talking about out of 3, one's gone, now it's a 50-50. But somehow he says people that call this a wife beating verse are Islamophobes. When at a basic level, according to what he's saying, it's a 50-50. It could go either way. You can't make this up.
Take this meaning, this word in the Quran, dharb, and say, okay, the Quran is saying go beat those women. No, that's unfair. We have to see what the Quran is suggesting here. And what the Quran is trying to communicate. We have to go to the tafsir. That's why it's important now to go to the tafsir of Ahlul Bayt to see what the meaning of dharb is. So as a last way, as a last resort to save the marriage, the Quran tells the men, okay, hit them, strike them. How do we automatically rule out beating, like physical abuse? First of all, it doesn't help with the marriage. You beat someone, what, they're gonna love you? Unless the person is, I don't know, has psychological issues, they'd like to be beaten, they're sadistic or they're whatever.
That's what you call begging the question. He's assuming it can't mean that, and then he's just trying to reason from that perspective. This is why I said earlier on, people like Dr. Yasser Qadi, who we've looked at before talking about this same verse, will acknowledge he knows what it means. It's like a beating. One of the reasons why he can't get away from that and acknowledges it is because he knows what it says in the hadith. There's clear hadith which shows that this is more than a light tap or a light hit or a light beating. So when you take all of this stuff in context together, it shows you clearly like this is not being interpreted as some light beating or a light hit. It's harder than that. And for him to just say, well, this is how we can rule it out straight away. How's that going to save a marriage? Well, this is the logic in the Quran. This is how you save a marriage. You tell them to behave, to fix up. You turn your back on them. You go and sleep somewhere else. And then you strike them. Because if a woman is getting, it'll be, let's just look at hadith because it can explain it better than me, right? We've looked at this hadith multiple times before. We'll bring it up again. So this is, which one is this? This is Abu Dawud 2146. All right. And this is a hadith which is very interesting on so many different levels. But notice what it says. Do not beat Allah's handmaidens. But when Umar Muhammad, one of Muhammad's right-hand men, came to the messenger of Allah, he said, women have become emboldened towards their husbands. He, the Prophet, gave permission to beat them. So one of Muhammad's right-hand men, Umar, comes to him and says, look, I know you said we shouldn't beat these women, but you need to let us beat them again because they've piped up, they're becoming emboldened. Muhammad now turns around and says, you can beat them. Doesn't they go and beat them up? So when this guy is talking about how is it going to save the marriage and yada, 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 this is how. Because from the Muslim perspective, when people like Umar, Muhammad's right-hand man, he's like, look, this is going to save the marriage because we are going to be able to keep them in check so they don't get emboldened again. So after Muhammad gave them the power to beat their wives, the husbands went and beat their wives so they could get them back into order. Loads of these women now go to Muhammad's family house and they're complaining. And this is when Muhammad now all of a sudden turns around and says, oh yeah, you guys that beat your wives, like you're not the best Muslims. He doesn't say you're not Muslims, which is crazy. And it's because they went round his house complaining. He literally gave them the permission the previous day and said, look, you can beat them again. So don't allow someone to try and use your logic to get out of the scenario like this guy's doing. This is how we know it can't mean that. How is it going to save the marriage? We just looked at hadith, which gives an example. It's going to save the marriage because I'm going to, as a Muslim man, get her back in line and get her in check. So she's not emboldened to do whatever. Doesn't that line up with the verse? If you fear rebellion, I think it does.
But it usually doesn't help.
I forgot what's it called. Some do.
They're whatever logical issues, they'd like to be beaten. They're sadistic or they're whatever. But it usually doesn't help.
I forgot what's it called. Some do. UFC? No.
What's UFC?
No, I know. I'm
Ultimate Fighting Championships.
There's
WWF?
There's people out there, from men or women, they like that. I forgot what.
But that's.
It's not common.
It's unnatural.
Yeah, no.
It's unnatural. In a natural marriage situation, beating the other person is not going to help. It's going to make them rebel more, and not be interested. So
imagine what you just said, right? In marriages, beating them isn't going to solve the situation.
Help. It's going to make them repel. Marriage situation, beating the other person is not going to help. It's going to make them rebel more, and not be interested.
Beating them isn't going to help. It's going to make them rebel more. It's going to make them be upset, etc. What did the hadith say? Let's look at it one more time. He said, Umar, that is, where is it? Umar, Muhammad's right-hand man, seems to think the complete opposite of what you just heard that Muslim guy say. Wait, hold on. These women are becoming emboldened towards their husbands. You just heard the guy say it's going to make them rebel more. Umar's like, no, we need to be able to beat them up. We need to be able to beat them and discipline them again so they can stop rebelling. So if you're going to try and take the perspective that, oh, guys, of course this isn't going to save the marriage. If you're thinking from the way this guy's thinking, which is not the way Muhammad's companions were thinking when they were talking and thinking about beating their wives. They look at this as a corrective. We can discipline our women so they don't rebel against us, because they know if they rebel against us, we are going to discipline them. That's the whole point.
So right off the bat, it doesn't make sense to say, okay, go and beat her. It's not going to solve anything, right?
If you have a woman who's being rebellious from an Islamic mindset, we just saw Umar, one of Muhammad's right-hand men, saying, they are rebellious, so let us beat them so they will not be rebellious. But he's here saying, well, no, it doesn't make sense. If you're trying to come from his position, it doesn't make sense, which is our position as Christians. We know that a husband shouldn't beat his wife because it's not going to save the marriage, it's going to push them away. But in the sources in Islam, it's saying something completely different. This is the reason why we should beat them, because they're stepping out of line and we need to get them back in line. We need to get them back into check. Dr. Yasser Qadhi knows this. This is why when we were looking at his video, he's acknowledging what it says, but trying to dress it up and say, yeah, just skip over it. This guy, for whatever reason, maybe he's not as knowledgeable or maybe he's being deceptive. I don't know. But
so already we know that's not what the Quran means here. So let's
No,
go
we
to
don't.
hadith.
No,
What
we
is the
don't.
hadith suggesting? The Imams of Ahlul Bayt have given two examples with these conditions. Number one, if he wants to hit her, he hits her with a toothbrush. Siwak. Have you seen the old toothbrushes? What were they made of? Like the twig of a tree? Have you seen them? They're this big. The natural type of brushing one's teeth. The Imam says he'll hit her with that siwak. The second condition, when he is lifting his arm to hit her, his underarm should not show. So basically you have your arm to yourself and you go like that. See, like that, can you hit hard?
So you see, this is why I'm always doing like this, guys. The miswak, the little symbolic hitting, the symbolic beating. He's telling you why. This is why. Look, like, come on, guys. The woman asked the most powerful question previously, which debunks all of this nonsense that he's trying to spew now. If she didn't care that he turned his back, why would she care about this? Do you think this is what Umar was asking Muhammad to give him permission to do? To get his wife back in check? But it's the women that apparently have deficient minds in Islam, according to Muhammad, and not someone like this.
If your underarm needs to be closed and you want to strike something, can you strike hard? Try it. Can you? Yeah, if you raise your hand, you can hit someone hard. But if your underarm is closed, can you strike hard? Do your best. Like, how hard can you hit? You can. Exactly.
See how he's trying to make like light of it? It's not really so significant. Okay, cool. Let's go back to this hadith. Let me just ask you one question. Do you think many women went around to the family of Muhammad? Do you think because these women were being beaten like this with a miswak, that's why many of the women went round to his house? Because they were being beaten with a miswak. This is the dumb reasoning and thinking that they will take you to cover up what the verse says clearly.
You can't. Because the momentum that you'll be hitting with is much lower. So the Imam says these are two conditions, right? He cannot raise his hand. His underarm must be closed. That's how he would strike her. Well, the question is, what point does this serve? This type of hitting, what does it mean? Why is this effective back then in that society? Let's just understand the context of the verse as well. Any ideas how this would be effective?
Well, like maybe it shows how frustrated the man is, like that he had to read.
Maybe it shows. I feel sorry for the people in this class who have to answer like such a dumb question, because this is why the guy's saying maybe it means.
Third, option.
That's a good idea. You're on to a good point. One idea is that when the man uses this measure as a last resort, remember, he's responsible, he's honoring his side of the contract, she has no excuse, he's given her advice, he's trying to boycott her, nothing has worked. Nothing has worked. As a last resort, the man in that society threatens the wife. It's a threat. That look, I'm not going to physically hurt you because you can't physically hurt her with these conditions, but this is serious and this needs to stop.
What kind of, could you imagine? A man comes to you and he's like, listen, I'm being serious. Better fix up. That's more laughable than the man turning his back.
Look, you're bringing to such a point where I have to do this. For a lot of women in that society, this was enough for them to change.
Listen, I'm going to bring out the miswak if you're not careful. I'm serious. Do you see the folly in what this guy's saying? In that society, it was apparently serious. So serious that we saw the hadith already, when the companions of Muhammad are complaining and saying, listen, They are rebellious. Please, Muhammad, give us the miswak back. Give it to us, Muhammad. We need the miswak. Because they need to see this little twig in order for them to see and realize this is serious.
And to honor their contract, to honor their side of the marriage. And so basically, some scholars have even phrased it this way. It's a way to break the ice with her. That look, you're being so silly, so unreasonable. Khalas, just stop. For God's sake, just stop. And that's just a symbolic way of conveying it. Because look, the reality is, if a wife sees her husband carrying a toothbrush and doing like that, she's going to laugh.
Oh, really?
Let's be serious. She's going to laugh. Really? Right? So it's a way to break the ice and just remind her of her silliness, that she's acting silly and this needs to stop.
Imagine, after you've told them off, option number one, after you've gone to a different place to sleep, now all of a sudden, I've got the miswak, honey. I'm telling you it's serious, but it's really a joke. This is what I'm calling spiritual spaghetti brain. Not spaghetti brain, spiritual scrambled egg. This is what this is. This guy's brain is spiritually scrambled egg. It's all over the place. Because this is the dumb stuff you have to come to make sense of something which is so clear. And this is a good question. Why do Muslims try to deny this? They literally have to agree with this, or they're denying Islam. And this is my whole point. This is what I was saying earlier on. It's like, this is your religion. Just own it. Accept it. Don't, like, why are you going to hide from it? It's clear. You only make yourself look dumb. You make other people who have to listen to this look dumb.
It's just a symbolic expression. This is one analysis of scholars. Yes.
I want to know if he's going to give the analysis of the scholars that say this literally means to strike and to beat them, to discipline them.
The problem is that people are translating the Quran, they're educated.
Yes.
The problem is that people are translating the Quran, they're educated, but they don't have command of the English language. Because I have a Shia translation on purpose, and it says beat.
Exactly. See, that's the problem when it comes to translation. You cannot accurately translate the Quran without properly reading the context and the tafsir. And
so she said in her question, she said, oh, look, the problem is people are translating the verse and they're not translating it with proper Arabic understanding. And this is the problem. Now, and then she said, look, I had a Shia translation purposely, which says beat. And this is why what I showed you guys earlier makes so much sense and why it's so relevant. Because look, these are not Shia translations. These are Sunni translations which say what? Banish them to their couches. It says beat them. Hilali Khan, beat them. This one says lightly, if it's useful, which is a false translation. It doesn't say that in the Arabic, right? That's reading into the text. Piktha. None of these are Sunni translations. They're all none of these are Shia translations. These are all Sunni translations. Scourge them. Do you think these people are translating the verses and don't have understanding of Arabic? Of course they understand what the Arabic is saying.
And knowing that each word...
It's because of people like this who want to keep you dumb so you don't actually understand what it says. Throwing the Shia under the bus to try and escape what's clear.
It has multiple meanings. So yes. Yeah, that's a criticism.
Why would you use, she says, the word beat when it's not the best? It doesn't make sense. It's not relevant. Like, and what's crazy about this is the guy already said it. You heard him. There's 3 options: go traveling, like a small hit, or actually beat. He said the first one, no, it's not traveling. It's either to beat, like a small hit, or to beat, like properly. So why is she asking that question if he's already said it's a viable translation?
That's a criticism for them.
And now he's saying it's a valid criticism when he's already said previously, no, it can actually mean that.
You just take the apparent meaning of darb, beat. One of the meanings of darb is beat. It's a common meaning. It's not an uncommon meaning. So they maybe, or they just probably took that from other Sunni tafsirs.
So you heard it's, and this is actually this is actually like when you think about it, you just said it again. It is a common meaning to hit the way many people read this verse and assume and come to the conclusion. Yes, this contextually is speaking about beating them, hitting them, striking them, scourging them.
I mean, tap would have been better.
Of course.
Not that I know anything, just saying, if you're gonna translate
She said tap could have been better.
it for people, that's what it looks bad.
It's very important how these verses.
It looks bad, she says. It's more than it looks bad. It is bad.
Are translated, definitely.
I mean, that's the reason why they say, I mean, there aren't really any good English
Translations
out there. So there's a
Exactly, because, but this is just one example. There are hundreds of examples in the Quran where the translators fall short of conveying the proper meaning of the word. Yes, brother.
They want to hide behind translations as a defense when he's not admitting to it. We looked at previously in a previous live stream, Dr. Yasser Qadhi is admitting to it. There's Islamic scholars that admit to it. Many of them admit to it, that it's a viable, solid translation, but they want to continue to hide behind it.
Let's say this verse was like acceptable to Saudi Arabia. I think today it's not as acceptable like back then, because now I think it'll be turned into two different ways. Like, say your husband comes at you with like a toothbrush. You know, today's society, it's gonna look not only like weird, it's gonna be like we live in a very sensitive time, where something happens like that, they're gonna frame it as abuse right away. So I don't think it's gonna work ever again. You know, ever like since that time period.
Well, see, the scholars are saying that we need to take the spirit of the Quran and see how this was a problem and what steps the Quran recommends to solve the problem. So scholars today are saying take the spirit of the verse. If this method that we discussed is not going to solve the problem in our marriages today, well, don't be literal with these steps. Find another way that's effective in terms of giving advice, in terms of boycotting them. And by the way, we have hadiths about that from the Prophet ﷺ, in which he tells us how to boycott them. The Prophet says, if you're the financial provider of the family and she's acting like that, give her less money. Put pressure on her financially. Less clothing, less money, less less going to the mall.
Even though this guy was saying earlier on, yeah, you still have to fulfill your duties. So I guess what he's saying here, if I'm going to be the most charitable to him, is you find that sweet spot where you can still complete your duties, but don't let her do all that she wants, I guess.
Less going to the mall, right? Going to the mall less. The Prophet says in one hadith attributed to him, see, that's how you put pressure on them. To basically pressure them to change. You see this type? So even this is mentioned in the hadith, by the way. I'll share with you the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As-Saduq narrates this. He says from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Inni ata'ajjabu mimman yadhribu imra'atahu wa huwa bil-dharbi awla." The Prophet says, I am shocked or surprised at the one who hits his wife, and he's the one who deserves the beating, not his wife. Beautiful words from the Prophet. Then the Prophet says, لا تضربوا نساءكم بالخشب فإن فيه القصاص. Don't hit your wives with an object, because then there's retribution. You hurt her, according to Islamic law, she can take you to court and she can hit you back, or have someone hit you. So see, the Prophet is very clear that you don't have the right to physically be abusive with your wife. But if there is a problem...
And is that what the hadith we read earlier on said? Of course not.
And they're not honoring their marital obligations, pressure them. وَلَكِنْ اضْرُبُوهُنَّ بِالْجُوعِ وَالْعُرِي. However, if you want to pressure them, you want to strike them. If you want to strike them, go on a strike. How so? Deny them some of their luxuries that they have.
We looked at Abu Dawud 2146 earlier, right? Is that what Muhammad said in that hadith? When Umar his right hand. Man, one of them said, the women are being rude, they're being rebellious, let us beat them. Again, did Muhammad turn around and say, yeah, like, do it financially? Did he turn around and say, do it lightly? Did he turn around and say any of that stuff? No, he just let them beat them.
So give them less money, less food, less opportunities to go to the mall and buy clothes. See, this is a very beautiful hadith from the Prophet that kind of explains the spirit of the verse. So to address the question or the objection that you raised, we have to take the spirit of the verse and see what's the most practical way to save the marriage and to let the woman know that, look, this is unacceptable. Question: how come the Quran doesn't allow her to hit him if he's not making himself available? How come the Quran didn't mention that scenario?
Because that scenario doesn't exist.
First of all, it's very unlikely in societies for a woman to be able to hit the man. In fact, if she would threaten any type of physical violence, she would get beaten up by the husband. So that's not good advice that you give to the wife, right?
And even imagine that. If she threatens him, she would get beaten up. So even if you think about what he's saying, it's like, he's down with a man beating up a woman.
Because it's not practical. It really isn't practical. Even today, in most societies, there are some wives who beat their husbands, but it's pretty rare. Number two, it's rare for the husband to not make himself physically available to the wife. Yes. So the Quran talks about the scenario that's more common. That other scenario, there's probably one scenario that happened in history, and that was with Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, when she invited him and he said no. It doesn't happen that often, right? Even in marriages. If there's someone failing that aspect, usually it was the wife who would refuse to make herself available physically, not the husband. It could happen, but it's unlikely. It's much less. So the Quran usually mentions the more common case that would happen in a marriage. Now, when it comes to nushuz, the beauty of the Quran is that it's saying when the wife is not fulfilling her responsibility, the man had the social and family authority to kind of threaten her and tell her stop, and let's save the marriage. But if he falls short of his responsibilities, you know what the Quran prescribes? The Quran says the wife does not really have the power to keep the husband in check and to kind of threaten him to behave. She needs a higher power in society. Who? The community, or the judges, or the qadi, or the arbitrators. If the husband is being negligent, and what is the wife going to threaten him with? Financially, historically, he's the provider, right? Physically, he's stronger. So what kind of leverage does she have over him if he's the one who's failing his responsibility? So the most practical way is to resort to the community, get the other community members involved and threaten him to behave. Or take him to the judge, to the Islamic judge. You will force him. It's like, look, you're making a violation, there will be consequences. In fact, some scholars believe if the husband violates his terms of the contract and he does not honor it, he could be physically, hit with the, what do you call it? Whipped. He could be whipped in court. Yes. So if she can't whip him, she'll have the judge whip him. That's the idea. Maybe he wants to be whipped.
Is there an actual job whipping people in court?
Is there what?
Like an actual job whipping people in court? No.
No, I don't think so, no. Maybe in some societies there were whippers, I don't know. There's something that's similar that happens in Congress, right? What do you call it?
Oh yeah, the whip.
So he's pretty much done. You can see, right? That was his best opportunity, his best shot at trying to just confuse and get away from what the verse says in the Quran. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been a good few hours already. Definitely make sure you like, subscribe, share this. And listen, I'm going to say this again, right? We saw earlier on in the live stream, the channel got reported. I've been given a strike, it seems, and restriction on live streaming on TikTok because of this. This is what happens when you engage in these sorts of topics and you shine light. So this is why we always say like it, share it, subscribe, do those kind of things, because the bigger and the more people that see this, the less this kind of stuff will happen. And even when it does happen, it's more obvious to people, so it makes it happen less. So I'm gonna thank you all for tuning in live, and for those of you watching this on a replay, God bless. I pray this was a blessing to you. But just see the mental gymnastics, the confusion that people have to bring in order to get away from what's clear in their religion. So when people go out, as I spoke about at the beginning of the live stream, and release videos talking about how Islam honors women more than Christianity, we looked at two examples today. One, that in the Islamic sources, it talks about how a woman is deficient in their mind. Muhammad literally said he hasn't seen anyone dumber than a Muslim woman. That's in one of the hadiths. And also secondly, that we looked at today, the wife beating verse, a verse in the Quran that gives the husband an opportunity to strike his wife. Christianity never says anything along the lines of women are going to be the people that make up the majority of hell because they're dumb, they're the dumbest people out there. It doesn't say in Christianity that a husband can strike his wife, but these are some of the things in the Islamic sources. And it's people like the guy we watched today who want to run away from it. And even the callers we got earlier on the call before all the dramas happened, we had one guy going along with it and say, you know what, that's just how God's made it. That's how it is. So God bless, guys. I'm going to be back. If anything, I'll be back on Monday with the next live stream, and I'll see you there by God's grace. Take care, guys.